you serve in?
Vietnam War.
What branch of the service?
Army.
And what was your highest rank?
My highest rank on active duty was captain.
And I know you joined the National Guard after active duty. What was your highest rank in the Guard?
I retired as a brigadier general.
Father, were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I joined.
Can you tell me? I know there must be a story behind it. Were you a priest at the time?
I was, yes.
Can you tell me why you chose to join?
Well, I would ask a question of you. If your son was in combat in Vietnam, would you want to have a priest or a chaplain with him? And you would say yes. And that's the answer that I give people. I went there because young men were there, and they were homesick, and they were frightened, and they needed somebody, and that's the reason that I joined. Yeah.
Do you recall the date? Or the month and year? Or what year even?
I'd have to think about this. I believe it was September 1966. No, November 66.
And we can check your DD 214 to get the specific date. So 1966, at the beginning of the war.
That's correct. Yeah.
Where were you stationed at the time when you enlisted?
Well, I was stationed first at Fort Dix in New Jersey, Fort Dix.
Did you do basic training?
Yes. Yes.
Was that at Fort Dix?
It's a long time ago.
I know.
Basic training was at Fort Dix. That's correct. Yeah.
Can you recall what the basic training was like? What kinds of things you did?
The basic training was the same as it was for every other person. It wasn't just because we were chaplains. It wasn't different. It was the same thing. Same thing.
You had to do the physical therapy.
Oh, everything that they did. Yeah.
Rifle range.
Yes. Matter of fact, we had to be familiar with all armaments from the 45 all the way up through the 50 caliber machine gun. Although we were non-combatants, we still had to be familiar with those weapons. Yep.
When you were in basic training, were there other chaplains, or were you just put in a class with civilians?
No, all the chaplains were together.
How
Matter
many
of fact,
chaplains were there?
oh, I don't know, but this is interesting. That one of the chaplains, we had gone through an exercise in the afternoon, and repeated that exercise at night in the dark, and it involved crawling on our belly on our elbows, and then they had 50 caliber machine guns overhead,
Live ammunition?
Live ammunition. And every fifth round was you could see every fifth round. And the man next to me stopped crawling, and I walked him on the backside. It was dead. Died of a heart attack. Yep, died of a heart attack. Yep. So I remember that one pretty well.
That was the first man you ministered to in combat in the Army.
I guess so, yeah.
Why did you choose the Army? Why not a different branch of the service?
Well, I didn't choose a Navy because I couldn't swim. Oh, boy.
Do you recall any of your instructors from basic?
No.
Nothing memorable.
No.
After basic training, where did you go?
It's a long time ago now, you know.
I know I'm asking a lot.
I was at Fort Dix for 9 months.
What were your duties while you were there? After your basic training, is that where you...
Yeah.
So you were stationed there for 9 months as a chaplain.
That's correct.
What was your daily life like? Like, what would a typical day be?
Typical day? Well, my office was right next to the barracks, the Women's Army Corps barracks. So I spend most of my time solving their problems. That's no kidding, but oh, good gracious, you know, problems. Helping the soldiers to prepare to go overseas, to leave their families to go overseas. Yeah, that would be that would be my job.
So these were young men who knew they were going to Vietnam,
No, not necessarily.
but overseas.
Overseas.
It could have been anywhere.
That's correct. Yeah.
Do you have any memorable incidents of soldiers that you dealt with that you can talk about?
No, I really don't.
What was the general feeling of those young men?
Well, number one, they were there voluntarily, so they knew what to expect. They knew they were going to go overseas. They knew they were going to be in combat, and it wasn't as if they were drafted in that position. They knew what they were getting in for, and
You had your own office on base. Did you have a regular 9 to 5?
Oh yeah, I did. I always had. I would when I got to the office in the morning, my chaplain's assistant would have the people lined up one after the other, depending on what time they arrived. And then I would see them in that same order. Sometimes I would spend 5 minutes with them and then have to refer them to somebody else. Sometimes I would say, okay, come back at such and such a time, depending on what their problems were. Some I could solve just like that by referring them to the proper person. Other times I'd have to spend time with them and have them come back and spend time with them, yeah. Yep.
After your 9 months at Fort Dix, where did you go?
You're going back a long ways here. I went then right to Vietnam. Yeah, right to Vietnam, yeah.
Did you request to go to Vietnam?
Yes.
Or that was,
No.
and again, you requested to go to Vietnam because you wanted to be there for the young soldiers?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, Father, you were going to tell me about going to Vietnam, the story behind that.
Yes. I was at Fort Dix, and I got orders to Korea, and I was immensely upset. And what did I call? I let it be known that I was upset, that I came in for express purpose of going to Vietnam. And the deputy chief of chaplains was Canadian born, and he would say, "Eh?" So I let them know that I was upset. I forget how I did. I wrote a letter or something. And he called me on the phone. He said, "Here you're not happy with the orders." Eh? Eh? And I said, "I'm not happy with my orders." He says, "Calm down." He says, "Calm down." He says, "Tear them up." Tear them up. You'll have orders for Vietnam. So with, maybe a week or so, or less than a week, I had orders for Vietnam. And so that was interesting.
Then you were happy.
I was happy, yeah.
As a Roman Catholic priest, how does that work for you joining the service? Do you have to get permission from the bishop?
You do, yeah.
So, when you were a young man at the time, and you were already in the priesthood, probably at a parish. Did you have to write a letter? Did you go visit the bishop? How did you do that?
No, I got an appointment with the bishop, and I told him I wanted to go into the service. And at that time, another priest had already asked, and he said something like, "Well, once we once we settled whether he's going to go or not, then, well, I'll talk to you about going in." So it wasn't long. Maybe 3 months later, he gave me permission to go in. And so I did. But yeah, you have to have, in order to be a chaplain, you have to have a what they call an endorsement from some agency, and the agency in my instance would be the Archbishop. The agency for some priest who was someone who was in a passionist, for example, whoever their boss was, that would be their agency. But for diocesan priests, there would be the bishop. So he endorsed me, and off I went.
Who was the bishop at the time? Was it Henry J. O'Brien or before him?
It was after him. It was after Henry J. O'Brien.
Doesn't matter.
No.
That's not important. What were you thinking at that time? Was your impression? Did you fully realize what you were getting into?
Oh yes. That's why I went. Oh my.
What year were you? Also, if you joined in '66, so this was probably '67 when you went to Vietnam.
Yes.
Did you go with a unit, or did
No.
you go as an individual?
As an individual.
You flew in on a commercial airlines?
Yes.
Where did you land?
Tan Son Nhut.
What was your first impression when you got off the plane in Tan Son Nhut?
It's hot.
What was your next impression?
My next impression? Why are you doing this?
No turning back at that point.
No.
Where did you go from Tan Son Nhut?
I went to Lai Khe, Laikhe, Lai Khe, and to the headquarters of the 1st Infantry Division.
And is that where you were stationed, or was that just temporary?
No, that was my battle station for the rest of the war. The rest of the time that I was there. Yeah.
And how long were you in Vietnam?
For a year.
So for the year you were at headquarters, 1st Infantry at Lai Khe?
No, that was the headquarters. I was, let me think now. like and then, my gracious, we're going back a long time. All the time I was there, I was with the 1st Infantry Division. And we say, if you're going to be one, be a big red one. 1st Infantry Division. If you're going to be one, be a big red one.
So you didn't stay at headquarters for long. Do you remember where it was you went after Like?
I do I do remember that the chaplain I replaced smoked cigarettes. And I remember when I replaced them, he could hardly get the match to the cigarette. He was just because because it was war, and so what was the question?
Where did you go after Like?
After Like. Funny, I can't tell you. I can't tell you.
So it was probably one of the bases for the 1st Infantry.
Yeah.
That chaplain you were replacing was probably thrilled to see you.
Yeah, he was happy to go home.
Were you the only chaplain at the base that you were located?
No. There was a major who was the brigade chaplain, and then there were 3 captains in each one of the battalions. So I was one of the battalion chaplains. Yeah.
As the battalion chaplain, what were your duties?
Well, what were my duties, huh? Said Mass every day. Cared for the ones who were wounded. My gracious. Isn't it something? I was busy all the time. And busy all the time,
When you said Mass every day, it was at base. Who would attend? The soldiers that were there?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you get to know the soldiers personally, living right on base with them? And the ones that would come to daily Mass?
Well, no, because a daily Mass was a daily Mass, but I was all over the place,
So Mass wasn't like at the chapel at this place?
Oh, no. I'd be flying all over the place, wherever the soldiers were. Yeah.
So base was your home base, but then you would fly out
yes.
to different forward operating bases, maybe?
Yep.
Typically, when you would fly out every morning to a different place to say Mass, how big of a group of soldiers would be located there? Are we talking like Mass for 12 people or 100?
Oh, that would vary too. One time I had 12 at Mass, and we came under fire. Phew, 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 came under fire. And I started Mass again. I had over 100.
Wow. That must have been pretty interesting. What did you do when the bullets started flying?
Ducked.
And then when it died down, you just started mass from the beginning again?
That's correct, yeah.
A much bigger crowd.
Yeah.
A bunch of believers.
Oh, my.
Was it typical that you would go out every day into the field somewhere?
Every day lived in a field.
You did?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you would fly out, would you stay for days or just one day and go back to headquarters and then fly out the next day?
No, I'd stay out all the time, usually till the following Sunday. And I always tried to have Mass at the base camp on Sunday. And the rest of the time I was in the field, wherever happened to be. And, yeah.
There must have been some memorable experiences besides that one where the bullets were flying during Mass. Can you recall any other memorable experiences in the field?
Yeah, I have a lot of them. A lot of memories that. I had a lot of them are very, very sensitive. I had one night. We were sitting around with the soldiers, and one of the soldiers said that he had been an altar boy, an altar server. I said, "Oh yeah, what's the Suscipiat?" That's one of the prayers in Latin. And he knew it. He knew it. I said, "By golly, you were an altar boy." And we got in a mortar attack sometime during the middle of the night, and I ended up with one of the soldiers right in my arms, and his chin was gone. He caught some shrapnel. His chin was, blown off, and the guy crawled over and said, "That's your chaplain. That's your altar boy." And I never forget that. Never forget that. Yeah. And then he was dusted off. By a dust off, we mean a medical ship that would come and take out the wounded. We call that a dust off because if you're there and in the dry season and it comes in, it's dust off. Yeah. Yep.
Did that altar boy survive?
I don't know. I never knew. That was one of the things. The anointed men, and I remember baptizing one of them too. They wanted to be baptized. I baptized them, and then they were dusted off, and there was no way for me to follow that up. So I have no idea. No idea. No.
Do you have any other memorable experiences from being in the field with soldiers? There were probably several incidents.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah, a lot of them. Well, a lot of them. I don't know if any particularly stand out, but seems like a long time ago to me. But then again, it seems like it was yesterday too. It does, yeah. What was the question? Any memorable?
Any other memorable experience of individuals?
Yeah, I remember one soldier in particular who lost his hand. He lost his hand, and we were still waiting for a dust-off to come and bring him to a hospital. But I don't know the circumstances. He wanted me to write to his mother, and it was, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll be the same as Uncle Frank." Apparently his Uncle Frank had lost part of his arm too, and he wanted me to tell his mother that he was going to be just as good as his Uncle Frank. That stands out. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the ones I remember were wounded. Were the wounded. My gracious, that seems like so long ago.
You would deal with the wounded after combat. Were you actually there during combat?
Oh,
Were you in combat with these men?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So where were you? Side by side with them?
Yes. Yes.
That had to be pretty scary, even for a priest.
Well.
You got God on your side, but still.
Yeah, I was right there, right with everybody else, getting shot at like everybody else. Oh my!
So the year you were in Vietnam, a large percent of it was in the field with the men, and oftentimes in combat situations.
Yeah, all of it was. Yeah, all of it was.
Couldn't have been a 9-to-5 job in that case.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was 24 hours. Yep.
I'm sure you witnessed a lot of casualties. You put a lot of wounded on dust-offs to fly back that you didn't know what happened to. But you also had to be witness to many casualties that didn't make it.
127.
127?
Mm-hmm. And somewhere I have a book with their names. And with their names and when they died and so forth. A lot of boys. And they were boys. That's the thing that people forget. The draft was on. They were drafted. And they were boys. These were boys right out of high school. And ill-prepared to be on their own, to be in danger, to be in war. And there they were. It's there's nothing in humankind more tragic or useless or foolish than war. Absolutely ridiculous. And there they were, the young men right out of high school, dying or being with their friends who were dying and so forth. It was just tragic. I hope, please God, we never get involved in war again. However, given the history of the human race, we will. That's the sad part about it. We're going to be in war again someday. And it's just so sad, yeah.
Well, you must have been of great comfort to those 127 men.
Right. I hope so, yeah. I hope so, yeah.
Do you still have that book?
Oh, yeah.
We can attach it to this collection. We'll scan it in.
I don't know if I want to do that.
All right, so we'll decide. Were you in touch with any of the families of the casualties? Were you in touch with any of their families?
No. No, we had the protocol was we sent letters to their parents or to their fiance or whatever, to the next of kin. We sent letters to them. I sent a letter. The battalion, the commander of the battalion sent a letter, and I believe the brigade commander sent a letter. But it was SOP, Standard Operating Procedures. If we knew personally the one who died, then we could personalize the letter. But otherwise, it was a standard operating procedure, Sent the letter, yeah.
When you were in the field, did you have a separate barracks, office place, sleeping place, or did you bunk down with the men?
There was no barracks. There was no sleeping place. There's nothing. You laid on the ground and went to sleep.
So let's talk about the daily living and the conditions. So you slept on the ground.
Well, for the most part. Now, occasionally, like I say, I tried to work it out so that I would be at base camp for Sunday. But the rest of the time I was out in the field, and I slept wherever it was dry. Oh, my.
How did you keep in touch with your family when you were over there?
Letters, yeah. Just by letter, yeah. I was turning to you, but you weren't there then.
I don't know the answer to that. What's the letters?
Letters, yeah. My letter, yeah.
Were you a good letter writer?
You have to ask them.
Did you get enough letters?
I think so.
What was the food like?
What was the food
What did you
like?
eat when you were in the field? Must have had rations.
Rations, yeah. The food actually wasn't that bad. I mean, we laugh about it and so forth, but actually the food wasn't bad. And they call them C rations, combat rations. And the ham one was pretty good. And sometimes you'd open up the packet, the packet that had the food in it and had toilet paper in it, I remember, and a few things that, for combat. And guys would exchange ham. You take the ham and I'll take the beef stew or something, whatever it was. But the food was, it was tolerable. We managed.
When you went back on Sundays to base, did you have a regular dining hall and 3 meals a
Yeah.
day?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you always have enough supplies and materials that you needed? Were there shortages of anything?
No. I had everything I needed, yeah.
How did you handle the stress of the job?
Didn't bother me at all. How did I handle the stress? Well, I would say on the top of the list was prayer. Was prayer. Knowing that God would see me through that and be there to help me. And so I would say really the prayer got me through that, yeah.
What would you do in the downtime if you weren't in the field? Did you have any downtime for rest?
No, honestly, don't recall any downtime time at all.
Did you ever go on leave?
I did. I went on leave to... Actually, I went 2 different times on leave. I went to Tokyo on leave. I was 5 days in Tokyo. And I went on leave the second time to... it's a long time ago, by the way.
I know.
I'm trying to recall. Went 5 days somewhere else. Definitely to Tokyo. I remember getting called in. They called it R&R, Rest and Recuperation. R&R. And I went on R&R to Tokyo. I came back and I was back a while. And I got called into the commander and said I was going on R&R. And I said, I've already been on R&R. And he said, well, you're going again. Oh? So I went again. Let me think now. Definitely Tokyo, definitely. Anyway, I had 2 R&Rs, rest and recuperation.
So what was Tokyo like? What did you do on your 5 days in Tokyo?
The first thing I did was find an Italian restaurant and get some pasta. That's the first thing I did. Oh, boy.
Did you go with other soldiers or by yourself?
By myself. Excuse me.
Did you see any USO shows while you were in Vietnam?
No. No.
Did you form any close relationships, friendships over there?
No.
So you became friends with General Patton?
General Patton's son. General Patton, that was the Second World War. So, but his son, yeah. I'm still very close to the Patton family. Very close to them. Yeah.
Was he stationed at the same place you were?
Yes. Yeah. And honestly, I became very close to the Patton family. Very close to the Patton family. Went up there many times, and yeah.
Did you form any other friendships while you were over there?
No, I can't say that he did. No.
Did you stay in touch with anybody after you returned?
No.
What was your opinion of your fellow officers? Because you were a captain by now.
Mm-hmm.
What did
I was a captain to begin with.
so you went over as a captain and you stayed the captain?
That's
the
correct.
time.
That's correct. Yeah.
What was your opinion of your fellow officers?
The best. The best. They, by the very fact that they were there, they were the best. Because they were volunteering to go into combat, volunteering to be in a position to lose their lives and so forth. So they were the best. Yeah.
What was your opinion of the servicemen?
Well, I hate to be repetitive, but they were the best. Yeah.
Do you recall your last days in Vietnam?
My last days?
So you know you knew when you were going to be leaving.
Mm-hmm.
It was a set time. Do you recall what those last few days were like? Do you recall your last day? Do you remember it?
No, I really don't.
To a lot of guys, they remember exactly what they did on that last day.
Yeah, no, I honestly.
What were you feeling at the end when you knew you were going to be leaving Vietnam and returning to the United States?
You know, I honestly. Oh, time's up.
When you came back, where did you go?
Boy, it's a long time ago. I went to. I went back to Fort Dix. Yeah.
And then were you stationed there for the rest of
Yeah,
your...
that's correct, yeah. Yep.
So you went back to your 9-to-5 chaplain office
Mm-hmm.
job?
Yep.
Um,
Well, hardly 9 to 5, but it was a 9 to 5, but, many a time should be 9 to 12 overnight or whatever.
so whatever was needed.
Yeah, right.
So that had to be 68. Around there.
Yes, yeah.
That was at the height of the war. What was it like going back to Fort Dix after having served over in Vietnam, in combat?
I'd rather have stayed back in Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know what chicken stuff is?
Yeah.
Well, I came back to a place with a lot of chicken stuff. Well, a lot of ridiculous stuff. Do this, do that, and so forth. Vietnam, we didn't have any of that stuff. That was for real. But then you come back to stateside, and it was, picky this, that. You follow? You understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you completed
Excuse me.
your enlistment at Fort Dix. Do you remember your last days in service when you were discharged?
No.
No, not memorable?
No.
After your discharge, where did you go? Were you assigned a parish?
Oh.
Or did you stay as a military chaplain on a base?
Oh, no. I stayed as a reserve chaplain, in the Connecticut National Guard.
How long were you the reserve chaplain at the National Guard?
Well, all told, 27 years. All told. But I would.
Active duty and National Guard?
Yeah, I was the Stark chaplain, State Area Control chaplain. I was the senior chaplain of the Guard for all of those years, 20 some odd years. And my office was at the State Armory in Hartford.
So every day for those next 20-something years, you would go to the State Armory?
No. You'd go only, like the other fellas, you'd go only...
once a month and on
that's correct.
Training?
That's you're pretty good. You know that, huh? Yeah. Yeah.
Where were you located when you weren't doing the National Guard? Were you assigned to a parish?
I was. Again, we're going back a long ways.
Did you move from parish to parish, or were you always at Rocky Hill?
No, I was at Rocky Hill practically the whole time.
Chaplain at the State Veterans Home and Hospital in Rochester.
Oh, so in Rocky Hill, it wasn't a parish, it was the state VA?
That's great.
So you were at the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs? So you're still with military?
Well, I don't know. I was the chaplain of the Veterans Home and Hospital for all those years.
What were your duties at the VA, at the Veterans Home and Hospital?
Well, this.
It's been daily mass.
Oh yeah.
The daily mass and ministering to the men who live there.
Mm-hmm.
When the National Guard had drill and you would go for that, what did you do? Would you go with them on their 2-week training?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any memorable stories that you can recall from your time either at the VA or when you were at the Guard?
A lot of times, by the way, they talk about the Rocky Hill as the VA, but it actually was not. Veterans Administration. This our hospital in Rocky Hill was a state hospital. It's not Veterans Administration. It was a state hospital. And what was your question? I forget.
What were your duties? When you were at the state VA or when you were on drill with the guys, do you have any memorable stories from that time?
No.
Nothing that stands out.
Sorry to disappoint you, but I can't remember it. Oh yeah, but that's
That's memorable. So tell me about that.
well. I went there presuming that they had a program for alcoholic veterans. Because when I was in St. Mary's in Derby, I was stationed in Derby for a number of years, and alcoholics from Derby would go off to the Veterans Hospital, and I said, "Oh, isn't that nice? They have something for alcoholic veterans. Isn't that nice?" I got to the Veterans Hospital and found out they had no program for alcoholics, and so immediately, that's what I got into immediately, to develop a program for alcoholics, and it's still in existence. We ended up having twice a week AA meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and it's still one of the biggest problems we have, by the way, is alcoholism among veterans. It's a big problem. Yeah. So,
When did you retire from the military? Do you recall the year? Well, I'm sure it's in your records. We'll check it. What do you miss about being in the military?
I loved it.
Did you?
I loved it, yeah.
Did you join any veterans groups after you got out?
No.
Can you tell me how your military experience affected your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Well, my opinion of war before I went in and after I got in hasn't changed a bit. War is stupid. War is absolutely stupid, and we should do everything we can to avoid war. Yeah.
Father, have you attended any reunions?
No, I haven't. A lot of friends of mine have had gone to reunions. As a matter of fact, Minkowski was just in last week, a friend of mine, and he goes to the reunions, but I have not, no.
How did your military service affect your life? It was a big part of your life.
Oh yeah, big part of my life. I don't know whether it affected my life or not, but certainly it was a big part of my life. And it's a life, incidentally, which I would repeat. I'd repeat that part of my life.
You would.
I would,
If you
yeah.
had it to do again, you would enlist and go back to
I would, because, again, as I've said to you before, the men, for the most part, were young and frightened and homesick, and they needed somebody. And they were 18, 19 years old, and I was 37, 38 years old. And they needed somebody. So I would do that again. I'd do that. No, in a heartbeat, I'd do it again, yeah.
Is there anything else that you can think of, that you can remember from your military days that we haven't covered?
No, I'm good at answering questions if you have questions, but
Have you been in touch with anybody since you left? I know that there's a dust-off pilot that comes to see you.
Yeah, several men that I was with, I'm still in contact with. Yeah.
You are. These were fellow officers or servicemen that you helped?
No, fellow officers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they come to see you still now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Chuck.
So it's a fellow chaplain?
Uh-huh.
A Catholic chaplain?
No, Protestant chaplain, yeah.
And you were stationed together at the same
Yep.
base?
And we're still in contact.
Stationed together, did you guys, did the chaplains stick together?
Well, there's a brigade chaplain who's a major, and then there are three battalion chaplains who are a major and then three battalion chaplains. And so he was the one we're talking about, War Sucks. He was a brigade chaplain, and then he had three of us who were the battalion chaplains, and we had a lot of fun. We really did. And I still am in contact with these chaplains. Well, one died, and the other one, but Chuck from Texas, I still am in contact with him. Yeah.
So, you chaplains who are ministering to the men and helping the men out, who ministered to you?
Other chaplains. Yeah. Yeah.
What advice would you give to today's military chaplain?
I don't know about advice, but I would remind them about how important their role is. A very important role. And, of course, we're not in wartime now, and it makes a difference. Just commend them for being involved and congratulate them for the service that they give. I don't think they realize how important their job is. And so I would encourage them to just be good chaplains. And it's a great job. Being a chaplain, it's a great job.
Now, I know that you received 3 Bronze Stars.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell me what other medals and awards you got that you can recall and why you received them?
Well, I had the 3 Bronze Stars and an air medal, MED medal, air medal, and some other, I don't know, other stuff. If I had them here, I'd be able to tell you what they are.
So we'll add them. I'm sure they'll be listed on your records. We'll add those.
Mm-hmm. I went over there, and I had the intention of being in the 1st Infantry Division. And when I got over there, we all had to stand in line and be assigned, you're going to this division, you're going there, you're going there, you're going there. So I had already made up my mind where I was going. And a truck was just leaving, and the truck had 1st Infantry on the side of it or something. So I jumped in the back.
You assigned yourself to that unit.
I did. That's exactly what I did. And then I was in the back of this truck, and this truck went up to, Zion or Like. That was in Zion. And I went up to Like, and I got out of the truck and went inside it. I don't know where it was. Then I said, I'm reporting for duty. Got to get his papers there. And he, well, who are you? And I never left. I stayed there.
Well, I suppose they're happy to get a chaplain no matter how they get.
Well, they were. And the chaplain I replaced, I told you this already, the chaplain I replaced, he could hardly light a cigarette. His hand was shaking so much. And I replaced him. And, Oh boy.
Well, it sounds like you
Loved
don't
it.
have any regrets about your decision.
Oh, none whatsoever. None whatsoever. I'd do it again tomorrow. Yep. General Keith L. Ware was our division commander, and I was scheduled to fly with him in the afternoon, and come late morning, maybe 11 o'clock in the morning, we lost radio contact with him, and he had been shot down. He was killed, you know. So they brought in what was left after they crashed. They brought the bodies in, and they had five body bags. So they brought the body bags in, and they had them all laid out, and they opened up one at a time, and one of them turned out to be the dog. The dog went with the commander everywhere, his pet dog, and it turned out to be the dog, you know. As a memorable thing. But boy, that's a long time ago.
All right, so Father, I know you also served during Desert Storm, and they called you back up and you went down to Fort Bragg.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you were talking about one of the duties of the chaplain that was difficult was knocking on doors. Can you tell me about that?
Well, that's always difficult, but bringing the news that someone died isn't. That's a very, very difficult thing in your life. But I've had to do that many times over the course of my military career. And sometimes, remember one time in particular, I went. A young sergeant drove me, and I went with him way out in the cotton fields down in South Carolina to bring the news that a soldier had died. And we got to the door of this rebel fallen down house, and let me see, get this straight here. The mother of this soldier who I was bringing the news about, came, and her grandfather came. They came to the door, and the mother passed right out on the floor, just passed right out on the door, because she knew. So her father and I picked her up and put her on a couch, and she had just passed right out, and bringing her the news that her son had died. And,
Was that in the Vietnam War or Desert Shield?
See, that word Desert Shield doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah, Desert Shield. Desert Shield, yeah. I think there was a religious order, wasn't it, from New Jersey, and they sent us all green vestments instead of white.
Into Vietnam?
Yeah, so we wouldn't, when we were saying mass, so we wouldn't stand out as much because of white, you know, especially me. It was a great target.
So they kept you in your vestments your time in Vietnam? Yeah, you're pretty tall, and all in white, you would be a good target.
Good target, yeah. So.
Well, I'd like to thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.